It's my honor and privilege to be here this morning as a friend to your pastor. And I want to preface this morning by saying that I'm not the usual occupant of this pulpit. So if you are a visitor that has wandered in to First Christian Church Fort Smith this morning, and you happen to hate everything that I have to say, come back next week and give it another chance. If you love what I have to say, come back next week because Jarrett and I are kind of cut from the same theological cloth. It is my intention this morning to get a little real with you, because the world we live in could use a little more real. A little less sidestepping, a little less fake news, a little less politically correct. I hope you don't mind. For 16 blissful, easy breezy, smooth sailing months, Jarrett and I served in ministry in Enid, Oklahoma. And by easy breezy, uneventful, what I really mean is the hardest experience in ministry either one of us has ever faced. Those 16 months united the two of us as a team more so than any ministers I have ever seen, because when you go through war together, you are united. And I tell you this only to qualify myself to all of you as ready and willing to stand here on his behalf, alongside him as he makes promises to you all, his new congregation, and as you make promises to him. Ministry, it's hard. Ministry is especially hard in a world where religion has been used to repeatedly cause traumatic injury to God's children. As a minister, one walks in a consistent line of being pastor to those who have been hurt and to those who have done the hurting. Living always in this dichotomy of another's religious priorities versus your own, and inevitably always letting someone down for not doing faith as they see fit. So friends, heeding to the promises that have been exchanged here today will at times be easy, and at times will be very hard. But a minister's heart and mind is constantly living in multiple places in order to be present with each and every one of you. You're always, always a minister. It's not an occupation that one does. It is a call that you live every day and in every interaction that you have with every person you encounter. I mean, one of the very first questions that we ask one another upon meeting as strangers is, what do you do for a living? What do you do for work? Ministers dread this question. Dread it. Because the minute we tell someone, we are then immediately sentenced to carry whatever religious opinion or guilt or shame or praise, maybe, that they have. It's like you've ignited this bomb in this conversation, and you have no idea what the response is going to be to what you do. Ministry is so very hard. I know this person, Jarrett, as all of you will if you don't already. And he knows as well as I that there are things that pastors will always want to say that they probably never should. but a guest pastor can. Let's say talking about politics from the pulpit. This has been a spoken and unspoken no-no for ministers and preachers of the gospel for what seems like an eternity, erring on the side of caution rather than offending the occupants of our pews. Ministers have been cautioned using the most emphatic deterrence known to man, fear. So imagine my quandary when today's text appeared before me as the lectionary gospel for this Sunday, my friend's installation. This text that unashamedly places issues of religion and politics fully front and center, united together in this gospel conversation, crammed together. Not uncomfortably, like an awkward interaction with a relative at Thanksgiving, but as a matter of fact. Any person who claims that religion and politics don't mix clearly missed today's gospel lesson. It is important to note that Jesus does not provide religious absolution from political and government involvement. We're going to have to pay those taxes. Sorry. But he makes the important distinction that loyalty, the issue of loyalty to such things, should only be as far as our complete and moral love of God will let us. So as we seek to give to the emperor what is the emperor's and to God what is God's, we must remember that each and every being is God's. And our loyalty is what belongs to God first. Now, as I begin to wonder if some in this room may want to shift a little in their seats, I have to say that it's understandable, really. Our desire to keep these topics, these two fiery specific topics, out of our comfort and comfortable settings. Our relationships, our families, our sanctuaries. We don't want to be uncomfortable in these places. There's nothing safe about that. But in this effort that our society has placed upon the world and work of ministry, in this effort to bifurcate the gospel from the reality of political systems that influence our lives, we have done a disservice to that all-important notion of call. And most importantly, we have left faith vulnerable and isolated, up on the auction block for the highest bidder. The Bible has been contorted so many times to fit the comfort level of the powerful, pushed, twisted, and breached more times than we can count. And what in the world is politically correct about that? Well, church, if you wanted a pastor who would succumb to the fear of offending you, you hired the wrong guy. Because this man that you just exchanged promises with knows the politically correct work of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And most importantly, he knows all about its unpopularity amongst the masses. He is not concerned about comfort, least of all his own. He is concerned about living in the messy, abundant, unapologetic love of Christ with each and every person. He is not one who will, as a friend of mine says, give you baby food from the pulpit. but sustenance for the journey. He will ask from you all that makes you comfortable so that it can be stretched and extended into a grace-filled life you may not have known was possible. But it will take trust on all of our parts to change this world, and a willingness to always stand up tall for what is hard. That is a politically correct gospel. And in case you might need some real-world examples of a politically correct gospel, let me see if I can come up with a few. When a terrorist, no matter the color of their skin, rings shots out through the streets or schools of America, the church should be prepared to offer a call to action against such disasters. Remaining silent is not an option. When thousands upon thousands of women cry out, "Me too," on social media, the Church of Jesus better stand in support of the endless of assault, harassment, and violence, because remaining silent is not an option. When yet another person of color is gunned down by those sworn to protect and serve with nothing to show for it but another acquittal, remaining silent is not an option. When individuals are hated, ostracized, belittled, stripped of their rights and protections, or disowned because of who they love, remaining silent is not an option. When the hurting, disabled, and abused are brushed aside, not even to be seen or to be heard, remaining silent is not and could not be an option. When white supremacists once again feel the safety to come out of their holes of hiding and not be held accountable by modern-day emperors, remaining silent is not an option. When events like taking a knee become more important than providing aid to devastated storm victims, remaining silent is not an option. And when public education is devalued, politicized, and underfunded, when immigrants and refugees are locked out and shoved out of a better life, and when Christians use their religious privilege to demean and degrade other religions, we absolutely cannot remain silent. The idea that the gospel is not political is offensive. It is offensive because it refutes everything Jesus stood for and died for. This gospel is a moving, emphatic, provocative, unshakable political statement against a world that wants nothing to do with this unrestricted love of God. I cannot help but congratulate each and every one of you on your choice of a pastor. Jarrett has had a journey out of a denomination that did not fit his need to practice this politically correct gospel. He has journeyed into one that fits him like a glove. It wasn't easy. His immense and humble gratitude for the opportunity to genuinely serve in a context that is ready and willing to move and shake a world with unrestricted, unapologetic, and immovable love radiates in his passion for the work of Christ. This gratitude, this passion, this willingness to do all that is needed for this gospel is everything we need to change this world. And congratulations to each of you, because today you have all made promises to one another, to Jarrett, to Lori. They have promised to you to walk with you in this work. You will not always be cozy. You will not be called to a comfortable life. You will be called to discomfort, to challenge, to see the hurt, to recognize it, to call it by name, and to walk alongside it. Congratulations to you all. And now it's time to get to work. Amen.